Lesson 1-2 is multiplying rational numbers, and you learned about rational numbers yesterday in your assignment. A rational number is the quotient, basically, or a fraction where the numerator and the denominator are both integers. You can also express a rational number as a decimal, either a terminating decimal or a repeating decimal. Here are some rules that I'm sure you already know, but it's always a good idea to refresh our memory. The signs of the fractions, or the factors, sorry. If they're the same, the product, the answer is positive. So a positive times a positive is a positive, a negative times a negative is also a positive. If the signs of the factors are different, then the product is negative. So positive times negative, that's different, so they're negative. Negative times positive, those are different, so again it's negative. When you're multiplying a fraction times an integer, here we have a whole number, here we have the fraction. So when we multiply this, we can say that this is 5 copies of a half, so technically we could do a half plus a half plus a half plus a half plus a half. And recall that when you add fractions, you add the numerators and keep the common denominator. So this is 5 halves. A quicker way to do this, and this is the way that I'm hoping that you do this, is take the whole number times the numerator and divide it by the denominator. So we'll do this in blue. We'll just say or 5 times 1 over 2. 5 times 1 is 5, and then we just have the 2. Now it says write these in simplest form, so when we write this in simplest form, we need to change this back to a mixed number. When you change this back to a mixed number, you're going to take that denominator and divide it into the numerator. You should have a little more room than I do on your paper so that you can write it underneath. So 2 divides into 5 twice. That leaves us 4. We subtract to get a 1. That's our remainder, so our remainder equals 1. But when you write it as a mixed number, the remainder is the numerator, and you keep the same denominator. So this answer is 2.5. Next we have a fraction. It happens to be a mixed number times our integer of -7. When we do this one, I first need to change that 1 3/4 to an improper fraction. Recall an improper fraction, I call it top heavy. The numerator is greater than the denominator. And to do that, I'm going to take the 4 times 1, so 4 times 1, and then I'm going to add the numerator. So it's denominator times whole number plus numerator, and it's over the denominator. So 4 times 1 is 4 plus 3 is 7. So this is 7/4. Now I'll go ahead, -7 times 7 over 4. Well, a negative times a positive is a negative, so this is -49 over 4. Now I need to go ahead and again change this to a mixed number. So when I change it to a mixed number, I'm going to leave the negative sign out of it. So 4 goes into 4 once. I have 0 remaining, so I bring down the 9. 4 goes into 9 twice, that's an 8, with a remainder of 1. So that's my numerator, and my denominator is 4. My final answer, however, is negative, because it was a negative times a positive, -12 and 1/4. All right, 3 times 5 divided by 8. That gives me 15/8. So we're going to put 8 into 15. It doesn't quite go twice, so it's 1. When I subtract, I get a remainder of 7. So my answer is 1 7/8. And it's positive because I have a positive times a positive. 5 2/3. I'm going to take 5 times 3 and add the 2, and that's over 3. So it's -4 times 5 times 3 is 15 plus 2 is 17. So this is 17/3. So this becomes -4 times 17 divided by 3. Again, we have a negative times a positive, so it's a negative. 4 times 17 is, let's see, we've got 40 and 68 over 3. So I will take 3 into 68. 3 goes into 6 twice. I have 0 left over, so I'll bring down the 8. 3 goes into 8 twice, and that's a 6. So when I subtract, I get 2, so my remainder is 2. So my fraction portion is 2/3. But don't forget, this was a negative times a positive, so the answer is negative 22 and 2/3. All right, let's move on. Now we're just going to multiply fractions. So fraction, basically numerator times numerator, denominator times denominator, and simplify it. Negative times a negative is a positive. 1 times 5 is 5. 4 times 8 is 32. 5 and 32 are relatively prime, so we're done. Positive times a negative, my answer is negative. 3 times 7 is 21. 8 times 10 is 80. These are also relatively prime, so again, we are done. 6 and 3/7 I need to change, so it's 6 times 7 plus 3 divided by 7. That gives me 42 plus 3 is 45 sevenths times 7 eighths. We can do what's called cross canceling, which means we're going to go ahead and simplify on the diagonals. 7 is divisible by 7, and 7 divides into 7, 1 in both cases. So this is going to give me 45 times 1 is 45. 1 times 8 is 8. This one's improper, so I need to go ahead and do my division. 8 divides into 45 5 times. That gives me 40. When you subtract, you get a remainder of 5. So my answer is 5 and 5/8 positive. Negative times a negative is a positive. So we have 3 times 5 is 15. 5 times 9 is 45. And it's a positive. Both of these are divisible by 15. 15 divides, if I divide by 15, divide by 15, this gives me 1/3. Now, I could have done that up here as well. I could have gone 5 divides into 5 once, 3 divides into 3 once, and into 9 3 times. And notice again, this gives me 1/3. I just didn't catch it up there. Next, we have multiplying decimals. What I want you to do first is just ignore the decimals. So I want you to look at this as 21, negative 21 times 7. So we're going to go 21 times 7. Negative times a negative is a positive. 7 times 1 is 7. 7 times 2 is 14. Now I have tenths here, so I have to make sure that I have tenths here. And I'm done. I want you to look at this as 54 times 3. 4 times 3 is 12. Carry the 1. 3 times 5 is 15. Plus 1 is 16. Now I have hundredths and tenths. So if I have hundredths and tenths, that gives me thousandths. That means I have to have 3 numbers to the right of the decimal. Again, I want you to look at this as 48 times 2. Don't forget, a negative times a negative is a positive. 8 times 2 is 16. Carry the 1. 2 times 4 is 8. Plus 1 is 9. And again, I have a total of tenths here, so I need tenths in my answer. Here we'll look at this as 15 times 28. Negative times a positive, my answer is going to be negative. 5 times 8 is 40. Carry the 4. 8 times 1 is 8, plus 4 is 12. I'll put a 0 here. 5 times 2 is 10. Carry the 1. 2 times 1 is 2, plus 1 is 3. Now I add these. So I get 0, 2, 4. I have up here hundredths and tenths. So again, that is thousandths. But a negative times a positive is a negative. Last one. Tran jogs 3/4 a mile every day. How far does he jog in 6 days? So I could take 3/4 and add it up for 6 days, but I'm going to do 6 times 3/4, because that's the same as adding it up 6 days. So I'll do 6 times 3 divided by 4. 6 times 3 is 18 over 4. It's improper, so I need to divide. 4 goes into 18 4 times. That gives me a 16. When I subtract, I get a 2. My remainder is 2/4. However, 2/4 can be simplified. Both of these are divisible by 2. So this is going to give me 4 1/2. And we do need to make sure that we go ahead and label our answer. Label our answer. Okay, so this is it. I will go ahead and post the assignment online if you'd like to see it. I don't have it right here in front of me right now, so unfortunately I can't post it at the end of this slide.